ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started with our March luncheon. I'd like to welcome everybody out to our luncheon today. We've got a great crowd, starting to see a little bit of sunshine outside. Hey, we're shaking the cold off finally. First and foremost, I'd like to invite up Pastor Alan Fisher from Oak Hill Baptist Church to bless today's meal, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, sir. All right. Hey, good afternoon. It's good to see you guys here. Thank you guys for all you do for our community. It's an honor to be with you all today. And let's pray and bless our time of food and fellowship together. Let's pray. God, we love you today, God. Thank you for so much, God, for just loving us like you do. God, we're so thankful for you and just your grace and your mercy that you extend to us. We're thankful that you know everything about us, God, and you still love us enough to send Jesus for us. And so, God, I'm thankful for this opportunity. Thankful for the people in this room, God, who are spending their time and effort to make our community better. Pray that you continue to bless them, and pray that we'll be able to honor you in everything we do going forward. And bless this food and our time together today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pastor Allen, thank you very much. We appreciate you for being here. We have 2 for Tuesday today. Head chef from the Urban Stillhouse Restaurant in downtown Somerset, Chef Jake Stearns is here. Chef Stearns, could you please come forward?
Well, thank you all so much for having me today. I am Jake Stearns, the chef de cuisine at the Urban Stillhouse over on Main. Tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about us. We're making our way into the community. That's one of my favorite things to do is, as a chef, really get to know the people eating the food. I spend a lot of time out on the dining room floor, getting to know all our guests and everybody coming in. So a little bit more is I'm a Kentucky native. I've been in Somerset about 3 years or so, almost 4, and what a beautiful, amazing community. We have a lot of people from, out of state coming in, really kind of making their home here. And so as an out of state kind of business restaurant, we really love the community here. We focus on local Kentucky regional food. So please come give us a shot as much as you can. We'd love to have you in, and thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, Chef. We have got a few things coming up I just want to put on everybody's calendar before we turn the program over to our Chamber President, Ms. Laura Glover. Coming up here in about a week, our 13th annual Shamrock Shuffle 5K. If you guys have not been out for that, it is a lot of fun. That's in downtown Somerset. We are starting to get a lot of people registering every day. We're getting 30, 40, 50 people that are registering on the daily now. I think we're over 500 registered, and that number is going to continue to grow for the next week. It is a lot of fun. If you want to just shake the winter off, if you want to come out, walk this, you want to bring your dog, bring the kids, dress up, great costume party, great attendance, a lot of fun. That's going to be on Saturday, March 15th. So you can register for that many ways. You can go to our chamber website or shamrockshuffleky.com. You can just go straight to the website, shamrockshuffleky.com. Register a team, come out. It's a great health initiative. Have a little bit of fun and enjoy that one. But that's coming up next Saturday. That's hard to believe. A lot of information tables here today, and I wanted to recognize all of them. This is a free service that we provide for our members. If you are a business or an organization and you would like to come set up and you would like to talk with our luncheon crowd, you're welcome to do that. We take these on a first-come, first-served basis. Just let us know in our office, and we can reserve these for you. What I would ask out of all of you all today, find an organization or business that maybe you don't know a lot about, and go say hi. Learn a little bit about them and some of the great people that are here in this community. And I want to recognize all the info tables that are here. So we have the Job Shop, Somerset 106, Fork Broadcasting. Expressions Tea and Gifts, Lifeline Home Care, the Chalet Restaurant, Silent Guard, Kristen Zaconti Massage, Lindsay Wilson College, Goodwill Industries of Somerset, Lake Cumberland Compass Magazine, the Living Soup Bread Kitchen, SPIDA and the SPIDA Community Foundation, the Lake Cumberland Regional Training Consortium, Readers to Leaders Storybook Trail, Mandarin Health, Center Well Home Care, and the Center for Rural Development. Let's give them a big round of applause. We've got a great speaker today, Les Fugate from Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman's a big company. It's at least $4.5 billion. I mean, it's a monstrous company and one of the largest probably in Kentucky. I'm going to let Les talk a little bit more about the signature industry. I don't want to steal his thunder, but very excited to have Les Fugate in town with us today. I am going to turn the program over to my boss, Miss Laura Glover.
Thanks everyone for being here today, and we will go ahead and call the March Chamber meeting to order. With that, we do want to welcome all of our guests, all of our public officials, and our chamber members that are here with us today. We really appreciate that. We also want to thank all of the sponsors on the wall behind us. They're also located at your tables, so if you have a moment, thank them. Without their financial contributions, we would not be able to provide all the services and programs that we do as a chamber. So I really appreciate them. If you want to become a sponsor, please feel free to come and talk to Bobby or myself. So now I would like to say a quick thank you to the chamber just for having these luncheons, the Center for Rural Development and Lonnie Lawson, and Sassy Spoon Catering, and also Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company here in Somerset. They do a wonderful job of providing services to our chamber. And now we're gonna hear from another of our past presidents. Last time it was Teresa Hale, and she did a wonderful job. This time I think you'll enjoy hearing from Lisa, a mentor and also a friend of mine. I can fill in that voiceover if you need me to. So, Lisa, what do you think about the Chamber's 100 year? In the meantime, what I will say, these videos, what they're doing, they are capturing past presidents just to celebrate the 100-year celebration. And so each month we are trying to establish that our past is highly connected with the future and the present. So that is what we are trying to accomplish here. While we are waiting on that, because we are sort of short on time, I do want to just thank the ambassadors. If they could all stand up so we can give them a round of applause. I must say, I have never seen a harder working group of people. They are at every chamber event. They are going to be at the Shamrock Shuffle, as Bobby mentioned. the race coming up. You can walk, you can participate in any way you want, but they are an amazing group of people, and we thank you so much for what you do. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and appreciate the Ambassador of the Month. This is one individual who goes above and beyond. So not only are they participating, they are really just going above and beyond, like I mentioned. So we would like to congratulate Caitlin Baker. I think we're getting used to you being up here, Caitlin. And if we could just have you come up and get your award. Thank you so much. So today's corporate sponsors, we'd like to also applaud them. So they really help sponsor the luncheons and just help us provide the series every single month. We want to thank the Job Shop and Hendrickson. So if you're here, let's give them a round of applause as well. And again, thank both of you. Not only do you support the chamber, but also the community. So thank you so much for your support. One moment. So Caitlin, at this time, if you want to come up and talk about the Job Shop, you definitely have deserved it. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Baker, and I'm the Sales and Marketing Representative for the Job Shop here in Somerset. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to thank Bobby and the Chamber for giving us the opportunity to sponsor today's luncheon and share a little bit about our company and the services that we offer. The Job Shop has been a trusted part of this community since 1986. Our mission has always been clear: to connect top-tier candidates with clients in need of reliable staffing solutions. We're proud to have 45 dedicated HR professionals who work tirelessly to ensure that we meet the staffing needs of our clients across all industries. We have 2 office locations, one right here in Somerset and then our main office over in London. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 10 to 2 on Saturday. We offer a wide range of staffing services to meet the unique needs of our clients, from entry-level positions to skilled laborers and even medical staffing. In addition, we also provide facilities management services, which is our drug screening division, and we also offer several customizable staffing options depending on the specific needs of each client, and that includes temporary staffing for short-term assignments, temp to hire staffing, which is one of our most popular options, which allows clients to evaluate and observe candidate over time to determine if they're the right fit for the role. And then last but not least, we also have direct hire staffing, where we charge a one-time finder's fee, and that employee becomes the client's full-time hire on day 1. All of our applicants are thoroughly screened and ready to start immediately. With these tailored staffing solutions, we ensure that our clients have the right talent when they need it, and we've built our reputation on matching the right people with the right jobs. At the Job Shop, we understand the hiring process from every angle, whether from the perspective of an employee, a recruiter, or a client. This firsthand knowledge allows us to truly appreciate how crucial it is to connect the right employee with the right job. We're committed to providing exceptional service and building lasting relationships with all of our clients, and we can't wait to see how we can help your business succeed. Don't forget to stop by our table in the back. We've got some great promo items, and we'd also be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you for your time today.
This month, we're going to be talking to Lisa Phelps with Transamerica Agency. She's going to give us a glimpse as to what it was like to be the past president and what the chamber means to her over the years.
I'm Lisa Phelps, and my background is in insurance and education, being with Transamerica Insurance for 31 years.
what does it mean to you that the Chamber has evolved and has been around for 100 years?
Pulaski County being one of the largest chambers now, it just shows the work ethic and the community involvement, and that the people here love their community. We are so blessed to have so many doers here that are willing to pick up whatever piece of the pie that they need to make it work.
So in general, what does the Chamber mean to you?
I think of the chamber like being like grandma's house. The chamber provides that date and time that you're going to come together, and then it has, when you come, it tells you what all is going to happen that month. It keeps everybody connected with events and just everything going on. It's like a family.
What do you think that our local Chamber of Commerce means to our community as a whole?
Oh, I think it's very important. And you can see with all of our members and all the activity that we have, that it's important to our community. They work together. I feel like, especially in this role, I have seen that I can call any of our businesses and everybody is willing to help, and some that's heard about different things will call me and want to help. So just makes you feel good about Pulaski County.
Tell us a little bit about your platform, your initiative, what you accomplished during the year in your presidency.
I just finished my last event for the Future Leaders, and it's the Future Leaders of Lake Cumberland. I mirrored it off of the Chamber's leadership of Lake Cumberland, only I focused it with our youth. So we have juniors and seniors, and I've taken them to all areas of the county. And again, those business leaders, when I called, they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted us to come, and they wanted us to show what their business had to offer. So just letting the students realize that Pulaski County had a lot to offer. You don't have to leave.
So lastly, what is your one powerful, high energy word to describe the Chamber?
Hub. And I think, Hub, it's the center. And I think the Chamber is a big part of being the center of Pulaski County business. Pulls it all together.
Thank you, Lisa, for all of those words of wisdom. And we also want to thank the centerpieces on the job shop. I think they look amazing, so thank you so much. And UK Spirit right there. And now our first Vice President, Bruce Gover, will come up and welcome our new Chamber members.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure again this month to welcome 18 new members to the Chamber. If you all are here, if you're a new member with us today, please stand up when I call your name so we can welcome you to the Chamber. In alphabetical order, Four Arrows Consulting Incorporated, David Blakeman. Books, Nooks, and Crannies, Renee and Jessica Ruby. Diamond Realty and Properties, Rita Bishop. There she is. Farrell Custom Wood Designs, Thomas Farrell. First Financial Bank, mortgage lender, Shannon Scott. There's Shannon. Granny's Grab and Go, Anna Duane. With us? Okay. Hello Clean, Marcy Weckworth. There she is. Jones Manufactured Homes, Robert Hughes. Lake Cumberland Community Fitness, Dustin Simpson. There's Dustin. Mead Tractor, Cameron Withers. Renovation Project Specialist, Patrick and Roxy Sullivan. There they are. Welcome. Republic Homes of Kentucky, Gary Smitty. Summer Pet, Jeremy Hutchison. Somerset Play Cafe, Dakota Williams. Spot On Productions, LLC, James England. Yes. Taco Bell North and Taco Bell South, Herschel Up Church. And finally, the Palace Family Entertainment Center, Craig Tincher. Can we give these new members one more round of applause to welcome to the Somerset-Pulaski County Chamber? Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. At this time, we want to introduce Les Fugate. He's the Vice President of Public Affairs for Brown-Forman across the United States, Canada, and Latin American territories. It's among the largest global spirits companies proudly headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, where he resides with his wife and daughter. And just because I know him, I know he is a volleyball dad, and that takes a ton of time. Prior to joining Brown-Forman, Les served as the Executive Vice President for a public relations agency. He served as the chief political aide to a former Kentucky Secretary of State, where he directed the communications office, legislative affairs, and local elected official outreach. He also spent time as an executive vice president here at the Center for Rural Development not too long ago. He's a graduate of Center College. He earned his master's degree from Vanderbilt, where he studied and concentrated on government relations, communications, and fundraising. He currently serves in a variety of volunteer roles. He's a board member of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, where he acts as the vice chair of public affairs. He also sits on the board of directors for the Kentucky Governor's Scholars Program. He's the vice chair of the Presidential Advisory Council for Center College and is the secretary of the board of directors for the Kentucky Derby Festival. Another high achievement, he is serving as the chair of government relations as the Kentucky Distillers Association. Thank you, Les.
Well, thank you so much for having me back to one of my homes. I get to spend 1 year here, literally to the day, as the VP here, the EVP here at the center. My wife and I got pregnant about 3 months after I moved here, and she was like, I think you need to move back home. So we had planned to be permanent residents for a long time. I want to say you have a tremendous director of your chamber in Bobby Clue, having served on the Kentucky Chamber Board for so many years, watching all of our local chambers. Without a doubt, this is one of the top chambers, not just in the state, I believe, but in the country. And Bobby does such a tremendous job leading the organization. So great job, Bobby. So he knows that I'm a talker. I could talk to you forever, especially about bourbon. But he was smart enough to schedule me during the legislative session, and I've got to go to Frankfurt right after this. So you're saved by negotiations in Frankfurt. I'm going to try to do the weird look thing, so I apologize, but I'll need to see the slides as we go. First of all, what is the head of public affairs for a company such as Brown-Forman? I'm the lobbyist. That's the fancy title for lobbyist. So I represent us to governments, everything from Canada to Argentina, with the exception of the U.S. federal government, is under my jurisdiction. It's a lot, I'll be honest with you, and I travel a good bit, but I love the job. And for those of you who have known me, and I have so many friends in the crowd that we served on Leadership Kentucky Board or the Kentucky Chamber Board, or you're my basketball seatmate for UK, or what have you. If you knew me prior to 5 years ago, you would say, wait a minute, Les is a Church of Christ teetotaler. How in the world did he end up working for Brown-Forman Corporation? I have a deep affinity for things that make Kentucky, Kentucky. And bourbon is one of the things that make Kentucky, Kentucky. When you travel abroad and you talk about Kentucky, they're going to bring up three things. they'll bring up Muhammad Ali, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and bourbon. Those are the three. You might hear Kentucky Derby thrown in there, but those are usually the three things that are mentioned. And I wanted to be able to give back to an industry that helps define our state. Additionally, Brown-Forman is known as the company in the city of Louisville in which to work. Tremendous kind of atmosphere and culture, and then they're really big supporters of the local community. So we are publicly traded, but family controlled. We're one of 7 Fortune 1000 companies headquartered in Kentucky, and we're one of the few where the CEO actually lives in Kentucky, and we're really proud of that. The Brown family, we still have Brown family members living in Louisville and in other parts of the state, but we're now to our 6th generation working for the company, and our 7th generation has been born. We're 154 years old, or actually we'll be 155 this year. Got to turn the calendar. So it's an amazing place to be, and I'm very lucky that I get to wake up every day and represent the company. So we were founded in 1870. Basically, our founder had this ingenious idea. Back then, you used to take a jug, stick it in the barrel, and pull out the bourbon. And you couldn't really depend on the quality of that bourbon because you might be putting stuff in there to make the bourbon stretch out. So they were putting stuff like tobacco juice and tar and all kinds of things to make that bourbon last longer. He had the idea, I'm going to put it in a glass bottle, I'm going to seal it, and I'm going to sign every bottle to attest to the quality. And that's how we got our start. He actually didn't start distilling. He was buying bourbon from 3 different distillers and blending it together. And then eventually we ended up purchasing our own. Hopefully this is going to keep moving. There we go. So that's our founder, George Garvin Brown, back in 1870. And I told you the story about how he developed the bourbon and kind of made his name as having the first bottled bourbon in the world. When we formalized the company, and eventually he had his son come into the company, making it a family business that would last, hopefully, to the 7th generation here soon. We were one of 6, 7, depending on how you define it, distilleries that survived Prohibition. So Old Forester, which is our founding brand, it existed before, during, and after Prohibition. It's the only brand in existence that can make that claim. We're very proud of that. We finally purchased our own distillery and create our campus on, we're basically just out of the outskirts of downtown Louisville on the west side of the town. And when I say a campus, we have a full campus. You can come and walk. We've got walking track, multiple buildings. Most of our global shipping is here. It really is a tremendous place to work. So the big moments for us, some of you may know about our LeBreau and Graham distillery in Woodford County. We purchased it first back in 1940. We eventually sold the distillery, and we'll buy it back again to start a little brand that you know as Woodford Reserve. But the big moment for our company was in 1956 when we bought a small brand at the time called Jack Daniel's. Jack Daniel's is the #1 whiskey of the world. It is enormous. While it's made in Tennessee, the brand is run and has been controlled from Louisville, Kentucky all this time. When you're thinking about the big distilled spirits companies in the world, all of them are based overseas except for Brown-Forman. We're the 5th largest. The rest of them are based in London or Japan, a couple in France, Italy, even one down in the Caribbean. But we're the big American company left. And so because we're family controlled, we can still maintain that presence and make our hometown in Louisville, Kentucky. But Jack Daniel's ends up growing to be the largest spirits brand in the world and the largest whiskey in the world. So the 1970s and through the 1980s, we went through the dark age of dark spirits. basically, bourbon had gone through a boom coming out of Prohibition, and then everyone started moving over to vodka. And the bourbon industry crashed in Kentucky. Everything except for Jack Daniels went down. Jack Daniels flatlined, but every other bourbon, either they went out of business or they took a significant hit. We went down to about 7 or 8 distilleries, depending on how you count it, after the dark days. Obviously, we're in the bourbon boom now, but there is a lot of concern that we'll go back to that, but we'll talk a little bit later on about why we will never see what we saw in the 1970s and 1980s, thankfully. In 1994, we repurchased the LeBrow and Graham distillery, and that's when we started Woodford Reserve. So many of you have probably thought that Woodford is this really old brand, and it is made at a historic distillery, but the brand is actually quite young. But it's the #1 super premium bourbon in the world. Woodford is what kicked off the bourbon boom. Our founder at the time said, you know what, I think I want to create a distillery experience like we have for Jack Daniels, which at the time had tours, which was kind of a novel concept at the time. And we're going to create a super premium bourbon. And everyone else in the industry thought he had lost his mind because bourbon had been so unpopular for so long. He put it in a differently shaped bottle. He priced it high, and it is now the booming success that we know today. Woodford is the presenting brand of the Kentucky Derby, and it is, like I said, the #1 super premium bourbon in the world, but it's really, its growth outside of the United States is just beginning. Jack Daniels can be found in over 170 countries. Woodford, much smaller, but we plan to grow the brand following in the footsteps of Jack. And then in 1996, that's when we launched, I'm sorry, I got the 2 dates mixed up. 1994 is when we launched Brown-Forman Beverages worldwide to help accelerate our brands overseas. And then 1996 is when we started Woodford Reserve. There are top 10 global markets. As of our previous fiscal year, I don't have the most recent numbers, but 55% of our sales are outside of the United States. 45% are in the United States. Why is that a big deal? Well, right now, it's not the best time to be the bourbon lobbyist because of tariffs. When the EU placed tariffs on American whiskey back during the first Trump administration, 80% of those tariffs were our company. Jack Daniels exports more whiskey than all of Kentucky bourbon combined. It's that big. So when you travel overseas and you ask for bourbon, you'll almost always be given Jack Daniels. But that specifically hurts our company, as we are very large in the international markets. Just some of the highlights about the company. Obviously, we have very large sales. We fluctuate, from year to year, normally on a growth pattern. We had a slightly smaller year last year, and this year is probably going to be slightly down as well. But we believe we have a plan to accelerate our growth, particularly in foreign markets in the future. Quickly to go through the brands. So Jack Daniels and all the host of brands that go with it. The latest big introduction is Jack and Coke in a can. And so that is the #1, what we call an RTD, ready-to-drink product. You can buy that all over the world. But it's not as big here in the United States because of the laws. It's my job to change those laws so that you can have access to those products safely. Some more of the different type of RTD products that we have with Jack Daniels. The bourbon brands that most of you probably know, Woodford Reserve, obviously, our founding brand, Old Forester, which just happens to be my favorite. Don't tell any of my brand friends for any of the other brands. And then Cooper's Craft, which is a smaller brand that was dedicated to the folks who make our barrels. So prior to just a few weeks ago, we owned our entire barrel making process. We have, over the last 5 years, been selling off those assets. And in January, we just announced we're going to sell the last one, the cooperage in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll still be making those barrels, throughout Kentucky. Just we're going to be buying them off of various companies. Our tequila business, which took a blow last night with the terrorists beginning. Herradura Tequila is also 155 years old. They created the reposado category. They created the extra añejo category. So they have really authentic tequilas. And then El Jimador, which is one of the largest tequila brands in Mexico. And then the RTD next to it is New Mix. That is the largest RTD in Mexico and is the largest tequila-based RTD in the world. Not yet available in the United States, yet. 3 of our scotches, we purchased these just a few years ago, Glendronach, Benriach, and Glengassa. Ford's Gin and Gin Mare. Gin Mare is one of the #1 ultra-premium gin in the world. Ford's Gin is one of the top 10 best growth gins in the United States. Chambord, Liqueur, some of you may know. Slane Irish Whiskey, if you've been to the Slane Music Festival, that's on the grounds where the distillery is. And then Diplomático Rum, one of my new favorites that we just purchased 2 years ago. So the only categories that we really aren't in, vodka. We used to have Finlandia vodka. We just sold that. And then we really don't get into much of the brandy space. So cognac in France, we're not in that, which right now is the right time to not be in it, as their sales are way down. We do not own the production process of Korbel, but we serve as their main agent. So Korbel was one of the first California sparkling wines, and they used the name champagne before France had created a law that you can't use the word champagne, so they were grandfathered in. So they're one of 2 companies who can still say that they're a California champagne. So those are the brands, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the impact of bourbon in Kentucky, particularly now that you guys are part of that story. We're so excited for Horse Soldier Bourbon making Pulaski County their home. It's going to be tremendous, I think, for your community. We work together really well as an industry. Even though we're fighting for sales, we're always working together to improve Kentucky and to better the laws throughout the world so that we can sell our products. But bourbon is having a major impact on our state. So we talk about bourbon building Kentucky, and I'll kind of walk through some of those aspects for you. So on the impact, we are 95% all of the bourbon in the world. So there's whiskey. All bourbon is a whiskey, but not all whiskey is a bourbon. So whiskey is the grand class. Then you move down into bourbon. Bourbon can only be made in the United States. And then Kentucky bourbon can obviously only be made in Kentucky. But 95% of all the bourbon in the world is made in Kentucky. The other 5% we say is counterfeit. Huge growth. So I told you just a while back that we only had 7 to 8 distilleries. Now we're through the roof. We keep adding distilleries. We don't know how far this growth is going to go, but 95 in 40 counties is remarkable. We used to talk about the Amber Triangle, which is basically Bardstown to Louisville to basically Lexington. That was the main bourbon-making area. Now we go from literally Fulton County to Pike County. And so it's impacting all of Kentucky. Additionally, you might imagine we buy a lot of Kentucky corn, different products that impact other parts of the state that actually don't, have a distillery there. Or maybe we're buying their white oak as in like Floyd County. We don't have a distillery where I'm from, Prestonsburg, but we're buying white oak from Floyd County. We've got 23,000 direct jobs. That's just the direct jobs from the industry, and you're seeing some of that spill over. I met with Chris Girdler earlier today, and we were talking about some of the bourbon jobs that were coming in that, are part of the bourbon story, but aren't necessarily a distillery, and that has a huge impact on the Commonwealth as well. Obviously, great wages within the industry as well. An enormous amount of economic development. Obviously, Chris can tell you the stories about the economic impact you're having here, particularly with Horse Soldier, but we're seeing this all across the state. I knew the moment we had really made it is when the Omni Hotel was being built in Louisville, and the theme wasn't horses, it was bourbon. That was the shift in Kentucky, in my mind, when we knew that all the tourists were coming for bourbon, not for horses anymore. Obviously, horses are a big part of that story, and with our brand, Woodford Reserve, being the presenting sponsor of the Derby, we are specifically tying it together. But if you went and talked to tourism officials about what is bringing folks to Kentucky now, by far, it's bourbon. The production numbers that we have are really stunning. 14.3 million bourbon barrels aging. That is almost 3 bourbon barrels for every person that lives in Kentucky. That is a extraordinary figure. I think 4 years ago, that number was 2 per every person. The rate of growth is really stunning. That means that the taxes that we're paying are going through the roof. And so you probably heard a lot of talk about the bourbon barrel tax. That is, Kentucky was the only place in the world that taxed a spirit as it was aging. Tennessee didn't do it, brandy didn't do it, Scotch didn't do it, Japanese whiskey didn't do it. No one did it but Kentucky. And back in the 1930s and 40s, when bourbon production boomed again after Prohibition, all the distilleries moved their warehouses to Indiana. So it would age for a year and a day in Kentucky, and then they would move it to Indiana to avoid the tax. We were about to go through the exact same thing in Kentucky. Multiple companies were looking at Indiana to move their warehouses. And so the legislature, in their, I think, in their infinite wisdom, decided we're going to get rid of that tax. We're going to phase it out over 20 years. So we've got 18 years until you get to save money on your bourbon. When you buy a bottle of Woodford Reserve, 60% of that bottle is tax. That's how much money is going to the government from bourbon. Now, that will go down slightly, obviously, as the barrel tax goes down, but we tax beverage alcohol a lot in the country, and we especially tax bourbon a lot in Kentucky. Just a note about the shipping to the world and the conversation we're having about tariffs. I'm sure the tariff conversation is beneficial for some industries. It is devastating for bourbon and for Jack Daniels in Tennessee. The last time around, we lost a lot of market share in the EU. It has taken years to get back to where we were. The tariffs in the EU the last time around were 25%. On April 1st, they automatically come back at 50%. So we are very nervous. Obviously, last night, Canada and Mexico went into effect, or at midnight this morning. They went into effect. Canada has already pulled bourbon and American whiskey off the shelf because the government controls the sale there, and they have put a tariff on American whiskey. Mexico has not yet announced what they plan to do. We're hopeful that they won't put it on American whiskey, but we did put tariffs on tequila. So we're in a tit for tat. These products cannot be made in another country, right? You can't make bourbon in Mexico. You can't make tequila in the United States. It's against the law. So we're not going to shift jobs with the tariffs. So we keep trying to tell folks, hey, this isn't about us. It's about other national security issues and things like that. Please remove us from the conversation and let us sell our products to folks around the world who want to consume great American products. Again, just more information on the taxes. I kind of went through all of that. It was $60 million in the bourbon barrel tax this year. 2 years ago, it was only $40 million. So you can see the rate of increase in that tax and why it was imperative that we begin to phase it down. The amount of alcohol we paid to the federal government is $1.9 billion. Kentucky pays more federal excise tax than any other state, including California, which is wine, because we tax spirits higher than we do wine, and we tax spirits higher than we do beer. So Kentucky, we do produce more bourbon than Tennessee does Tennessee whiskey, so it's the number one contributor to the federal excise tax at the federal level. Those are all the taxes that you're paying every day when you get a bottle of bourbon. It's a lot, folks. I'm doing my best to take that down for you so that you can enjoy it at an affordable price, but it's kind of hard to get some of those revenue points away from the government. We are, even though we are bourbon, the bourbon state, we tax bourbon as a state higher than most other places. We're the third highest open state in the country for taxing distilled spirits. There are something that we call control states where the government controls the sale. Some of those states are higher. We try not to compare those because it's really apples to oranges. But in terms of open states, Kentucky is the third highest. Agricultural impact, I mentioned before, specifically corn. We buy a lot of Kentucky corn for most of the distilleries that are buying locally. We are also trying to bring rye production back to Kentucky. Our company specifically is funding that effort, working with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and the University of Kentucky. But we also are looking at bringing a variety of different grain products back to Kentucky so that we can produce, most of our grains here in the state. Well, I just think this is a great little saying. A lot of people come to Kentucky searching for the best bourbon, but, you don't leave go to another state looking for the best bourbon. The reason why we say that is there are a lot of states who are going after us trying to take our mantle for bourbon. Maybe, if I can get it to click. Well, let me first talk about our Bourbon Trail Tour. So we're bringing 2.5 million visitors to the state every year. As I mentioned, we've shifted from horses being the Kentucky attraction to bourbon, and you guys will be part of that story very soon. The profile is that we're very affluent in terms of the visitor that we attract, and so tourism officials love that. When they come, they spend a lot of money, and we're starting to appeal to foreign visitors who really spend a lot of money. We have a lot of different experiences. We've gotten creative, and I have to really applaud the Kentucky legislature. They are the ones who made this possible. Before, we didn't have the laws that would allow you to taste a bourbon when you were at a distillery or buy a bottle when you were at the distillery. Everything was very limited. The legislature realized, watching what wine had done to attract visitors, but also seeing wine decline over the last 20 years, but their industry still be supported through tourism, they realized if we change the laws, we can make the Bourbon Trail like wine country, and that has worked. And you can tell the difference. Tennessee has laws that are nowhere nearly as good as Kentucky. And their Tennessee Whiskey Trail is nowhere near the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So you can thank your Kentucky legislators for helping reshape Kentucky's tourism future. This is what I was talking about, other states trying to steal our thunder. So this is an Iowa ad trying to say, hey, not all bourbon needs to come from Kentucky. These are some examples from West Virginia and Texas. So they've been coming after us for a while. Luckily, the bourbon boom hit, and Kentucky bourbon soared. But at one point, we were less than 95% of the world's bourbon. It had gone down, but we've been making a strong comeback in recent years. And we want to protect that because that's what draws folks here. So that's the industry. That's the company. I don't know if you want me to take questions. I'm happy to take questions if you want. But if you have a question, I'm happy to answer or try. Yes, sir. Yeah. So the question was, what part of Jack Daniel's is bourbon versus Tennessee whiskey? So Jack, if it were a bourbon, it's not a bourbon. Well, it's a bourbon, but it goes one step further to make it a Tennessee whiskey. Jack would be like 30-something% of all the bourbon if it were a bourbon, but it's not. But the largest bourbon brand is Jim Beam, and it is considerably larger than Jim Beam. It's 20. Put it in perspective. I'm going to give you round numbers. Jack Daniel's was about 20 million cases. Woodford Reserve, which was the #1 super premium bourbon in the world, was 1.5 million. All of it is Tennessee whiskey. Yeah, there's no Jack Daniel's bourbon.
Secondly, is the taxes, what part of the taxes is federal versus state and local?
Depends on the state, and it depends on the locality. But I would say 25% would be federal, probably. About 25% of the tax would be federal. The rest would be state and local. Good question. Any other questions? Well, yes, sir. What's the unique taste? That's not actually in Woodford Reserve? So Woodford was created to appeal to all of your palate. So they talk about it having over 100 flavors, and they've actually tested it and have scientific backing, because our lawyers will not allow us to say anything that we don't have the scientific backing for. So that it will appeal to basically every taste center if that's what is prominent for you. I don't know of a taste that is missing from it. I'm sure there are some, but any slight variation, so we're always testing, not on your everyday Woodford, but we'll have distillery releases and master collection releases where the distillers are creating something to draw deeper flavors. So they just introduced one last week that has a higher chocolate flavor, and so it's actually higher proof. But when you taste it, if your taste buds allow you to taste real chocolate, it will hit you immediately when you taste it. It is very strong chocolatey taste. Now, I should make note, Woodford Reserve Double Oaked is the #1 ultra premium bourbon, and that product has grown tremendously, and it had a sister product that came out once a year called Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. We would sell it at the distillery, and we would have to call in the state police because it was chaos when we would release it. We wouldn't announce it. We would just send out the email that day, and then hordes of people would show up. That product is now available. You can now buy that out in the market. The demand is really high, so sometimes it may take a little bit for your local stores to get it, but it is a product that you can now get. So that's a fun new release that we just had. Any other questions? Well, in the bourbon industry, we always talk about drinking responsibly. So I will close with that, that our company strategy has been to get rid of all of the cheap stuff and move into the premium, super premium, and ultra premium categories. We want you to drink better, not more, because we want you to drink responsibly. Our joke is that if you have a bad experience with one of our products, you may never consume it again. So we don't want you to go and have a bad experience. So we want you to celebrate, hopefully with Brown-Forman products, but do so in a responsible manner. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to come back to one of my Kentucky homes. Appreciate you.
Unless we would like to present you with the friend of the chamber, but you're also a friend of Somerset, a friend of Kentucky, a friend of the center, and welcome home.
Thanks, friend.
And next we are about to do the raffle. As luck would have it, I do have glasses on today. So the first thing we're giving away is a $20 RB dry cleaning, and the last 3 digits, 546. 546. No takers, so I will do another one. 577. For dry cleaning. Another 532. Right over there. The next one is Buffalo Wings and Rings. It's a gift card for $25. And the last 3 digits are 621. 621. Right over there, Matt. The Cumberland Grill, $25. The last digits are 626. And lastly, Longhorn, a $100 gift card. It looks like everyone in the room is going to eat well this week. And it is 615. Longhorn, Yay! Lindsay over here. And thank you for the Job Shop for donating. We really appreciate that. And also, I do want to remind everyone our next luncheon is April 1st, and it's going to be with Alan Stein. He is the man who brought minor league baseball to our area, to Kentucky. So we're super excited for that. It'll be an interview type, so it'll be really interactive. So I hope you join us on April 1st. On that note, Dwight Sears, if you could lead us in Chris Tilley. This luncheon has had all sort of different softballs thrown. Thank you, Chris.